Yeah, this is just part one of this. It's a two-part series for you guys. So today we'll be covering installation and setup of X360Recover's direct to cloud. And then our part two, which I believe it'll be in 2 weeks, we'll go over some of the actual recovery options. But like Olivia said, I do like to kind of keep these open. So if you guys please do have questions, throw them into the chat session there, and I'll definitely try and make sure I get to any and all questions that are asked. But let's dive into it. I do just have a few brief slides that I'll take us through. Don't worry, I am not one of those death by PowerPoint type sales engineers. But just to kind of give you guys some information about Axient and what we do here. So really, we try to make backup and recovery and disaster recovery business continuity turnkey, right? Or as easy as possible, whether it be deployment, recoveries, pricing, stuff like that. We want to try and, make our MSPs happy and easy to use this solution. So what do we offer? We've got endpoint backups. We've got no hardware BDR to where you can back it up directly to our data center. We've got turnkey BDR to where we can obviously sell you appliances, lease you appliances, or you can build or bring your own. And then, of course, we do offer backup for AWS, Azure, and Google servers or systems that are in those infrastructures, just giving you a cloud to cloud backup of those systems. So that way you don't have all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. Now, why Axient? Why the X360Recover product? Well, we are a chain-free solution. So we're breaking free of that mold from some of the other traditional solutions that are out there. A little bit about me. I joined Axient about 5 years ago, but I started my backup and recovery about 16 years ago with a little company called Aperture Software Rapid Recovery. So I guess you could say backup and recovery has run in my blood for quite a few years now. Of course, before that, I should say, actually, I worked in a NOC and managed a 50 tape library for semantic backup. So very familiar with backup and recovery. This solution is chain free, kind of groundbreaking, breaking that traditional mold where each and every one of recovery points are considered their own self-contained bootable image of that system from that particular point in time, with no reference or correlation to the one before it or the one after it. Yet we are still only doing one full image and then just capturing the incremental block level changes after that on whatever RPO setting you would like. Okay. Now, with that being said, and some of the other benefits that would come out of that, obviously, we only do one full image and done, meaning you're never going to have to send us that another full image ever again. So once we've got that initial full, we're just incrementals from that point on. Even after the, even after scenarios, excuse me, of like dirty shutdowns, or even after bare metal restores or virtualizations, whether that be an Axient's data center or right there on the appliance, no full images have to be done again. Okay. Of course, our agent installation's very easy. We've got a nice universal installer that doesn't discriminate, meaning we don't care if it's a Windows Server 2003, R2 and above, Windows 7 Service Pack 2 and above. We just released our support for some Linux systems like Linux or Red Hat, Ubuntu, Debian, some of those things. So if you'd like more, we've got a KB article on that. But the nice thing is that this agent installation does not require a reboot after installation. So plus it's an MSI, so you can also mass deploy this out with your RMM tool. Again, making it easy to deploy. All right. Now, one of the other things that's going to be included with your partnership with Axient, yes, partnership, not just a functionality of this software, but a partnership gain that you get from this is Axient's air gap capability. So the solutions, they have a mechanism where we separate the actual delete request from the application and the data deletion on the disk. So the benefit to that is, if a malicious actor, or if it's just a bad day for one of you or your technicians, and you accidentally delete something, or malicious actors delete protected systems or recovery points, give us a call. We go through a quick authentication process with whoever we're talking with, and we actually have the ability to rehydrate that content right back into the UI. It's kind of like undeleting something from your deleted items in your Outlook. It's pretty much that simple and that quick. So we don't actually have to restore the data. We're just unhiding it from the disk and displaying it back into the UI of the application. And that's covered by any of the products that we offer here at Axient. Now, specific time-wise, you can give us a call up to 3 weeks after that scenario. After that, you're getting close to playing Russian roulette. It's can we, maybe. I just can't give you specific dates, how much longer after that. You'd be kind of left out in the cold. But 3 weeks is still a decent amount of time. Okay. Moving on here, this is just a brief diagram on how this solution can be deployed. Today, again, we are covering the direct to cloud, the left-hand side of your screen. So let me touch on that real quick. Basically, you take the agent, install it on the system that you want to protect, and that will back up directly to our data center. That's the design. Now, in addition to that, you can also have it back up to an optional USB drive, NAS device, network path, anything Windows can read and write to locally, and we'll store a 7-day encrypted local cache on that device. And that can help speed up recoveries. Okay. Now, I will cover that in our installation today. So I'll talk more about that as it comes up. And then over on the far right-hand side of your screen, you can see one of the other optional deployment methods. This is really, our appliance base. This is what's going to help some of your customers that, have an SLA to get a system back up and running in less than 15 minutes. That's where these appliances. So kind of think of it as, it's an on-prem backup hypervisor for you. So in the event production system goes down, you can log into the appliance on premise and be able to get that machine up and running. All right. It got a question, real quick question here, and I'll answer this one because it's a real quick and easy one. Is the encrypted local cache immutable? The data cannot be changed, but it can be deleted, unfortunately, from that local cache just because, well, we're not controlling the disk that it's being stored to. So, but even with that being said, the local cache has a self-heal property. So if something were to be deleted or removed at night, the system, the agent will reach out to the vault and it will pull down whatever missing content that it needs to in order to make that local cache 98, 99, 100% compatible with the content that we have. So that way you always have 98, 99, 100% of that content in that local cache in order to help you speed up recoveries. So great question. Hopefully that helped answer that for you. All right, moving on. And of course, once all of this content reaches the Axient data center, you get some options with that. Now, of course, you can do file folder level recovery. You can export an entire clone or image of your protected system. But then we have disaster recovery or business continuity services in the Axient data center. Now, when I say services, for each device that you protect with Axient, we're actually going to provide you 30 calendar days worth of boot up time included in your licensing cost. So each device gets 30 days of boot up time in Axient's data center, and that refreshes itself every calendar year. And everything is tracked at the per minute level. So if you only use it for an hour, well, then you still have another 29 days and 23 hours to virtualize it, whether that be for testing and or production DR utilization. Okay. And then of course, giving you that ability to connect into the vault or the data center with an FTP client to download content, or we do also offer USB disk shipment. Okay, so if you basically need to get data, large amount of data from our data center back down to you or the client, we do offer disk shipment capabilities where you're really just paying for shipping to get it to you. And of course, options, how quickly do you need it? All right. And with that, really, again, here at Axient, we're here to help cure data loss and just make it easy for you guys to sell backup and recovery and to manage the solution. So with that, I'll dive into the actual application here. And of course, we do have this fantastic link on our website, the recovery time objective calculator tool. Again, helping you guys answer the biggest question. All right, Mr. Client, what is your recovery time objective? Well, this can help. And because we have a few different ways you can deploy this solution, obviously here you can see that it will spit out in hours the amount of time that it would take you to do a restoration, just depending on how you deploy the solution. So again, I'll make sure that Olivia or myself, we put this in the chat window. And then if you got questions, please reach out to your account executive. But all right, getting here into the Axient partner portal. This is going to be each one of you and your techs will have access to this login. This is where you're going to be able to access your contact information for anything Axient related. Be able to see support's phone number, our support hours. You'll be able to see your account executive's name in there, your partner success manager, pretty much anybody that you need to get a hold of here at Axient, it's in that contacts page. Okay. And then, of course, that ability to see and create tickets here within the partner portal dashboard. Be able to see if any of your technicians opened up tickets. You could be able to see that here under the support section. Anything related to billing. If you want to do your self-paced training, for you and your technicians, you guys can go through this and do the trainings, get certified in the product. And then also, let me get back to that other screen there. And then, of course, in addition to that, you've got the schedule live training to where if you want to spend, whether it be 15-minute, 30-minute, and an hour-long session with the trainers here at Axient, great way, sometimes even same-day availability. Okay, click to schedule, you show up, trainers go, what would you like to learn today? And they'll go over anything that you want to go over. So it's a fantastic resource that's included with your partnership here at Axient. Okay, so basically unlimited access. Okay. All right. Now, diving into the actual product itself, the X360Recover product, and getting direct to cloud set up. So from here, you're going to come into the RMC, which stands for our remote management console. This is your 30, 40, 50,000 foot overview of anything you have recovered deployed, whether this be appliance based or direct to cloud based. You'll see all of that in here. Now, some of these SLA or protection thresholds and stuff like that, Doug, what does that mean? Well, really here, I've been doing backup and recovery for 16 years. I don't pay attention to individual VSS errors anymore. They just happen. It's 12 o'clock here Central Standard Time. I'm just based right outside of Dallas, Texas, but say the 12 o'clock backup works, the 1 o'clock doesn't, the 2 o'clock does, 3 o'clock doesn't. Well, if I've already established with my client, like, hey, I'm going to guarantee you at least a once a day backup, I'm not going to just go into his protected system and just set it up for one daily backup. I'm probably going to set it up for 3, 4, 5 times a day, 6 times a day, or maybe even hourly. Because again, we're just capturing the delta changes, but as long as one of those 6 backups is successful, I'm still in compliance with that customer. So whether or not VSS works now, but then it doesn't work later, and then it works after that, if I've got time as an engineer, yeah, I can absolutely dive in and be able to go and find out why it's not working. But as we all know nowadays, sometimes that's just not the case. The availability of time to go and just check on that stuff, very far and few between. So why not have an alert set up to where it's like, hey, notify me if I haven't received a backup for this device, in a certain amount of time, like say 6 hours or 8 hours. Much easier to prioritize those than to respond to every single VSS error, because it's going to happen, right? So you guys can customize this from a global policy or a blanket policy, but then you can absolutely customize that on a per device level. Okay, so if you've got, a co-managed environment or an organization that, has their own Dwight Schrute that is nosy and wants to be into everything, well, you can customize that. But all right, diving into actually getting the direct cloud deployed and set up, we are going to provision you a vault here at Axient's data center, or one of the data centers. We do have 4 data centers, 2 here in the United States, 1 in Canada, and 1 in Amsterdam. And unfortunately, before any of you guys ask, we don't do tours. I'm sorry, I wish we did, but we can't. But here, you'll get into the vault itself. And then once you're in the vault, you'll click on the clients. And then the first thing you'll do is you'll click add client. And this is where you're going to add your customer list. So I usually like to take Acme Brick as my example, whether it be Acme Brick Dental or anything like that, but I would put in the company name down there. And then here, if this is a co-managed environment, I can be able to provide this client username. I would probably do something like this, where it's acmebrick.admin or something like that. If you don't need to give them access, you don't have to. You have to set this up at the beginning, to get it set up like this. But then you'll just hit create user. Now you can see I've already got that set up here in this environment. Let's scroll down here just a little. There's my Acme Brick admin. So I've already got the customer set up in the platform. Now I come over here, there's the download Windows agent, and then right next to it, you can see there's the download Linux agent. Okay. So again, Windows Server 2003, R2 and above, Windows 7 Service Pack 2 and above. We've got Linux, Ubuntu, Red Hat, Debian, and a few other flavors. We got a nice KB article that'll go over all the different flavors of it. But you'll download that. It's a universal installer. It doesn't care what it's being installed on, and no reboot required. Okay. It'll install the agent, no reboot required. It'll automatically register with this portal. So it'll show up in this list. This is a multi-tenant vault. So you can see here all of my different customers and organizations that are in here. I'll click into mine, or you can see that machine as it pops up here in the list. Then the only thing you're going to have to do is come in here and create your backup policy. Now, I usually help my partners set this up at the very beginning. There's going to be a default backup policy in here. I usually tell my partners to go ahead and turn it off and give it a name like parking lot. That way, whenever you install an agent, it automatically registers with this portal, automatically gives it this default waiting backup policy. So then that way it allows you and your team members to actually create a backup policy that you want that system to actually utilize. And that here, I'll take you through that process real quickly here. So again, assuming that I'm setting up this agent for Acme, I'll come in here, create backup policy with the 3-letter, 4-letter acronym at the beginning. And then here, say I'm going to be doing it every 4 hours. I would do something like that. Enable the checkbox here. Select our policy-based schedule. The classic schedule is good for appliances that are on-prem. But here, go into my policy-based schedule, select my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever business hours that organization may have. I'll set that up, go through all those, expand the backup schedule, click the drop down, say set this every 4 hours. Of course, this is just, again, depending on the RPO that you need for that particular device. Yes, the solution could go down to say every 15 minutes. It's just, can the bandwidth be able to handle that, or the amount of change be able to handle that? Again, completely up to you. But we'll go with the every 4 hours approach right here. Right here, this allow full backups during business hours. I always highly recommend this. There's a few use cases where you probably wouldn't do this. Normally with organizations that have a very weak upload pipe. And when I say by week, anything that's less than 10 megs of upload speed, that's where you would probably want to, talk to an engineer like myself and go over this kind of checkbox right here. But without that checkbox enabled, you're kind of delaying the inevitable, right? We've got to get this initial image done and transferred, so that way we can then continue doing the incrementals, right? So best practice to enable that. Now here you will notice that we do have the backup during non-business hours option available as well. I can continue and have it just do every 4 hours the entire day. Or, if this is after hours, then I know the system's not going to change that often. I can back it up a little less frequently, give it a little bit more breathing time. Again, completely customizable. Have that conversation with your client. Again, make sure that this checkbox here for allow full backups during business hours, that way that when that initial backup kicks off, it's just going to run continuously 24 hours a day until it completes. Right? That's the best practice. Now here you will see that there is this offset backup start time by and a drop down in minutes. What is this here for? Well, really, if we're going to be replacing a different provider, a different solution, this is our attempt at playing nice with others. This is just what's going to allow you to stagger VSS, stagger those backups. So if you do have another backup application on there and you know that they're running on the hours, then I would probably come in here and tell you to set this thing to 30 minutes or bare minimum 15 minutes. That's Microsoft's best practices for VSS calls, at least 15-minute intervals. But even then, if it's just one other backup solution, probably just say 30 minutes and you'll be just fine. Okay. Now, expanding the throttling section here, this is kind of almost a must use. Best practice, highly recommended. Not necessarily the disk IO throttling, unless you've got some law firms or clients out there that have maybe some 12, 13, 14-year-old laptops that are out there that still have those slow, archaic 5400 RPM disk drives. That would be the only reason why you would need the disk IO throttling. Other than that, anything faster than those, you're not really going to need this. Okay, we're pretty lightweight on the disk, pretty lightweight on the processing power, memory. Okay, now networking. Notice I said we're lightweight on the disk, processing power, and memory. I haven't said anything about the network, but that's because it's right here. Please, please, please don't leave these at 0. 0 to us means unlimited. That's kind of like me trusting my 18-year-old with keys to a Ferrari. It's not going to end up pretty, right? I wouldn't trust him with that. So if you giveth, we will taketh. So I usually best practice recommend, if this client say had as an example of 100 meg upload pipe, I would probably do 25% of that during business hours and 75% of that during non-business hours. So 25% or 25 megs during business hours, leaving plenty of room for the client, the organization, to use their upload pipe for whatever they need necessary to complete their jobs during the day, but then increase that bandwidth so we can use a little bit more at night. And this is a flexible quality of service, meaning we don't have to stop the job in mid-transfer in order to adjust these settings. We'll just open up the bandwidth as needed, right? Or shrink it down if it comes to that time in the morning where we got to decrease it back down to 25 megs in the morning. Okay. But you'll set all this up, you'll click save, then you come over here to the protected systems list, and then you'll find the system that you just installed the agent on, click that and select the backup policy that you just created. Now, once you do that, we're going to kick off that initial backup within the next 3 to 5 minutes. You'll then be able to monitor that here in the jobs section. Okay, one other quick notice, if you're going to go through and do this, without the assistance of an SE or anything, just know that when you get this set up for the very first time, this particular page does not automatically refresh itself. So that's why we've got the refresh button up here, or you can click on something else and then be able to come back and that'll refresh itself. Okay, but As you can tell, I probably get a lot of questions about that. And yes, I do. So there's the refresh button, utilize that. Okay. And then of course, we'll start sending the data. Now, a few other quick things to kind of highlight or cover or go over. Like I said, if I was going to be deploying this out to a machine and I wanted to set up local cache, well, I'll install the agent, let it register with the portal, come into the machine, then click agent. And then right here, you can see that once I've installed the agent on that machine, I no longer need access to it. I don't even have to have access to it to set up local cache. So right in here, I can just enable the path and then also enable the username and password section if I'm writing out to a network address path. But if it's just going to be a USB drive hanging off that system, then I won't have to enable that and I can just plug in the local path. Okay. And then you click save, and that will enable the local cache for that device and start sending those backups to that USB or NAS or network path so that it'll start encrypting that local cache and keeping 7 days worth of backups for that particular device. Now, another real quick thing, the local cache, you can have multiple systems going to the same path or directory, although we do have a limitation. You can only send up to about 10 terabytes worth of data to one path or one location. If you've got more, just feel free, please reach out to a sales engineer. We'd like to have a conversation with you if you've got more than 10 terabytes of data. Let's see, just trying to think. Only other things that I can help think of when getting this solution set up or deployed. Here we do have integration with ConnectWise, so you can, for ticketing purposes, where we can auto create, auto append, auto close tickets, you can set that up. If you're not a ConnectWise partner, then you can just come over here to system settings and come into email notifications and have it set up to where it goes to, a mailbox that's being monitored by your current PSA tool today. Other than that, that pretty much covers the initial setup and deployment for X360Recover direct to cloud. Again, this is just part one of this session. Our next session will go over some of the recovery options for direct to cloud. So at this time, I'll kind of start to leave it open. If you guys have questions, please feel free, drop those into the chat session here, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Thanks, Doug. We have just a couple questions here so far, but again, everyone, please feel free to put those either directly in the chat to us or in the Q&A. If you click the Q&A, you should be able to ask questions there. But one of our questions is bare metal restore possible from the local cache drive?
Absolutely, great question. So yes, you can do a bare metal restore directly from our cloud. You can do a bare metal restore utilizing the local cache. Absolutely. In fact, when you've got the recovery toolkit, which is what we use to perform bare metal restores, it's something that you can put onto a bootable USB, boot up the hardware, let it launch to the USB. There's a recovery wizard in there. That recovery wizard will walk you through, I think there's like 4 different bare metal restore options, just depending on where we're going to be accessing the data from. It can be from the cloud, it can be from an appliance, it can be from the vault, it can be from a local cache. So yes, as you can see, various different ways to do that. Hopefully that helps answer your question for you.
Awesome. Looking through here.
I do see a question that came in here. So you notice that the compression was turned off in my last example. Great call out. In fact, I'll dive into it real quickly here again. So this compression right here is agent-based compression if you want it to do that. Now, would I recommend that? No, that puts a little bit more strain or overhead on the system itself. We do compression when it reaches the vault for direct to cloud. So we'll compress it once it reaches the storage platform. This way, yes, it might take a little bit more bandwidth, but it's a little light, lighter weight on the actual production system itself. Plus, when you keep in mind the agent too, it's a very intelligent agent, meaning, with most laptops and desktops today, well, we'll say mostly laptops, but they have that innate ability to just be traveling around, right? Users would go from hotel to airport, maybe a seminar, right? You never know when that computer turns on or when it's going to turn off. Well, that's the nice thing about our agent is that it's fine. You can continue, or your end clients can continue using those devices just like they normally would. When that system turns on and it has an active internet connection, we'll just pick up where we left off. Okay. All right, that was a good question.
And then I guess a follow-up to that, would that mean the local cache would have a compressed or non-compressed recovery point?
So the local cache is going to be compressed as well. Okay, so yes, the compression is both done in the vault, in our data center, and on the local cache. So we are going to compress that content.
Another question here from Chris. Is compression done at the on-premise appliance prior to the uploading of the vault?
It is, yes. So see, there is one advantage, or an advantage of putting in an appliance. The appliance will handle the compression, and then once it's compressed, it'll then replicate that to the vault. So depending on the size of the protected systems, depending on the bandwidth, as you can see, there's a few variables that come into play here. But I mean, mainly where we're seeing direct to cloud deployed is going to be your endpoints, right? Your laptops, your workstations, stuff that you don't want to take up space on an appliance. Normally, the appliances are deployed in customer organizations that for their servers, or even some of those quote unquote workstation servers that I keep on seeing a bunch about. And I'm pretty sure you guys are seeing your fair share of those good old Windows 7 or Windows 10 machines that are trying to run business operations, right? Yeah, that's what we're seeing that for, though. But the servers, majority for the most part, are being backed up by the appliances. Although, yes, we do have customers that have servers being backed up directly to our cloud. Again, it's that age-old question. Tell me, Mr. Client, what is your recovery time objective? And then tell me your bandwidth. I mean, this is some of the information that you guys may already know about that client, but having something like this that's going to lay it out very point blank and almost give you realistic expectations that you can be able to tell your client, all right, Mr. Client, look, you don't want to spend, X amount of money for an appliance. How about I put in a NAS device or a USB drive, make it to where it's just maybe a 6-hour turnaround time to help you do a bare metal restore with that local cache, or get it up and running in a Hyper-V host or something like that. See, that can definitely help in those kind of conversations.